Hi, I'm Tom Gillen. We're here in central Pennsylvania on the Appalachian Trail in Berks County. We're heading south toward the Rausch Gap. The Rausch Gap is an area that is steeped in history. It's an old abandoned mining town that has a lot of the old foundations and really just a great attraction to see. We are going to do a great menu for you today because here at Adventure Cooking, it wouldn't be an adventure without the cooking. We are going to do a potato leek soup that we're going to blend that is just excellent. You don't need any utensils on the trail. It's great for a day hike like we're on today. And we're also going to do a wonderful chai that is homemade and really, really nice, very delicate, a lot of great spices. We're also going to do some trail bars, and the trail bars, they are homemade, home good, and hometown. You're really going to love them. They're very easy to do. You know what all of the ingredients are. So at this point, we'll meet you back in the kitchen. Don't go away. It's a little warmer back there, a little less snowy. We'll see you when we get back, so please don't go away. For today's menu, we'll make that potato leek soup, very rich and creamy. We are also going to make that chai, and I'll tell you folks, if you make this chai, you will never buy pre-made chai again. It is so delicate and so delicious, just loaded with subtle spices that you're going to just love. And also those trail bars I was telling you about. They are simple to make, but have fantastic flavor and are a great treat out on the trail. When working with leeks, you won't want to use the upper dark green portion. It is very leathery and tough. What you will want to do is cut into the top of the white portion and just make sure it's very easy to cut and not tough like the dark green part would be. Also, you are going to want to clean the leeks. Just fan them like a deck of cards and place them into some cold water. They're grown in sand, and we need to remove all of that sand before preparation. You don't want any of that sneaking into your soup. First, we'll need to preheat our pan. Then, we'll use a simple chop for the leeks. First, slice them in half lengthwise, then cut across the grain. Well, once we've got our pan good and hot, again, we're going to go in with just a little bit of cold olive oil, and you can see the olive oil absolutely has a change once it is cold and goes into that hot pan. So once we've got some heat going there, we're going to go right in with our leeks. Now, as I said, a leek is certainly in the onion family. It's like a good onion, much milder. Again, that's why we use this in a soup like this. Remember, that potato it has some flavor. It doesn't have an awful lot of flavor, so we've got to be careful not to mask it. That's really the reason for going in for with something like a leek. A little bit of extra in there. We're also going to go in with just a little bit of carrot. And I say a little bit of carrot. We want to add a little bit of that flavor. We want to have a little bit of that texture and sweetness, especially out of the carrot, but we don't want to overpower this. Again, we're looking at a potato soup, and a potato soup is white. We've got that rolling. And I'm really going to do a sweat here. I'm not going to saute them, so I can turn the stove down just a little bit. I want to have them done, have some bite to them, but not really any browning. Again, I'm trying to hold back on building an awful lot of flavor in this regard. Now, I also like to go into here with a little bit of garlic. In this case, we're going to blend it. You don't have to work too much with the garlic, so what I like to do is simply give it a shot like that. And for all of our garlic lovers, we're not going to go in with 1 clove. We're going to go in with 2. Again, couldn't be simpler than that. Once we get going, we want to move this around just a little bit. What we're waiting for are those leeks to become just a little bit translucent. We want to start to break down the fibers with that heat and build a little bit of flavor. Again, it looks just incredible. Now here I'm using a new potato. And a new potato, of course, is much like it sounds. It's newly dug, newly harvested, whatever you want to call that. In this case, it has a very thin skin. The thin skin is important, once again, because we're blending this. We don't want to see a lot of chunks of that, and sometimes you can pull in potato soup a piece of skin out of there, and it's hard to get through. These are nice and tender and very easy to go through. Now we don't have to work too hard at slicing. Again, this is going to be a blended soup. We don't want to worry too much about that. What we do want to worry about is having everything the same size. We don't want to have slices of potato that are 1 inch thick and slices of potatoes that are 1/4 inch thick. They just won't get done in the same amount of time. So we want to be fairly consistent as we go through here. Now these are going right in the pan. With the potatoes, we're not really going to put a lot of heat onto them. They're simply going in there at this point so we can add our chicken stock. Now, this is a prepared chicken stock. I got this at the grocery store, no two questions about it. What I like to use is a chicken stock, not really a chicken broth. You get a lot more flavor out of it and a lot more color, a lot more deep and real richness out of a chicken stock versus a broth. Now what we're going to do is let these go. We've got about 10 or 15 minutes of boiling these and simmering these as we go along, and they're going to be nice and tender. We're going to fork tender till we pull them out of there, and as I said, they're going to go right into the Vitamixer, and it does just a super job. With all of this, you've got to be careful. It's much easier to fix something that you've not gone far enough with than it is to fix something that you've gone too far with. So we don't want to cook these potatoes until they're mush, and then once we get them into the Vitamixer, we don't want to overblend them. That really could be a problem for us. But what we'll do in the meantime, I've got this chai recipe that you are absolutely going to love. One of my favorite things to do is go to one of the coffee shops and get one of their chai lattes. Really, really fantastic. If I'd have really thought to myself before, long before this, and tried this chai recipe, I would have done it long ago, because really I have not had anything that compares to this. It is really, really good. So what I want to do, I'm going to change my pans around here just a little bit. I'll pull my potato soup onto this side, and then we'll go on with our chai pot. Now, you'll notice here, and I'm being specific about this, using a non-stick pan when I make this chai. We want to do that, or I want to do that, simply to keep some of those flavors from permeating into the pan. This washes out very, very easily, and we're really using some heavy spice as we go into this. Now, in here, I already have 7 cups of water, and to that 7 cups, I'm going to add some wonderful spice. Now, I want to get that boiling as fast as I can, and then we'll add our spices to that. This is so incredibly easy to make, and as I said before, so incredibly good that you will not want to do it any other way. So the first thing that I have are some of my several spices. This is so easy that you're just absolutely not going to believe it. The first thing I'm going to do is go into that water with some orange peel. And with these flavors, you just want to kind of pick things that will go with each other. Orange goes really well with some of these spices, so I'm going in with some of the orange peel. In the original recipe that I found, there was not orange peel in it, but I have added that and am really pleased with how that has come out. So I'm going to go in there with some orange peel, and that's really the peel of 1 whole orange. Then I'm going to go in with some ginger. This is just a piece of fresh ginger out of a hand. It's about a ½ inch square. That is going to go in. Now, I actually have some cinnamon sticks here that a friend brought back for me from Indonesia, and I'll tell you, they are fantastic. Just the aroma of them is incredible. We're going to go in with a few cinnamon sticks. We also have some bay leaf. Now this is where it gets kind of funky, because we're looking at spices that you really typically think of as a savory dish, not a sweet dish. And in many cases, this chai is going to be sweet. So we go in with a little bit of bay leaf. I also have here some coriander, some fennel seeds, some black pepper. It's going to give it a little bit of spice, a little bit of bitiness, some cloves, and some anise seed. Really, really incredible stuff. The one thing that I have here that I really like, and if I had it to do again, I would buy a little bit differently. But again, grocery stores have what they have sometimes. But cardamom seeds, I really like the cardamom. To get the cardamom is a full kind of pod. In this case, I've just got some seeds. But all of that is going to go in. And we're simply going to steep that, or let that steep for we're going to let that boil for about 5 minutes. We'll bring it up to a boil and let that simmer. Now, once we get that going, and boy, the aroma of that already is just incredible. It just really starts to kick up and come out. I want to try and take this stove up as high as I can get it to get that boiling to start working. Again, just wonderful, the amazing aroma that that thing gives off. And to that, once we get that moving and boiling for about 5 minutes, we're going to go in with some Darjeeling tea. The recipe that I have is a masala chai and calls for Darjeeling tea. Some folks will use decaf, some folks will use orange pekoe. I also have some really great orange flavored tea that I like to use. And I'll tell you, just to experiment with this, do whatever you like, use some of the flavorings that you like, some of the spices that you like. One thing that I'm going to add to this, I nearly forgot about this, I'd be in trouble if I did that as well. This is also some nutmeg that I have that was brought back from Indonesia, so we're going to pop that in there as well. This is pretty simple to do. I just want to give it a crack and open that up. This is the part of the nutmeg that we're going to use. Sometimes you'll see that they use a nutmeg scraper to scrape this off, but since we would strain this anyhow, we can go right into there with some nutmeg. Really easy, really simple to do. We can see here, if we go back to our potatoes, we've got everything starting to boil there. Now what I want to look for and look at here is these to get simply fork tender. I don't want to go any beyond that, again, because of that blending process, but they're cooking quite nicely. Now, we could absolutely use water to do this. The thing about water, it's going to cook them, it's going to give them the tenderness that you want, but it's not going to add flavor. The chicken stock absolutely adds flavor to it, so I really recommend that you do that. Of course, if you've got someone with a vegetarian diet, you're going to have to adjust that a little bit and use the water, or use vegetable stock, which again is a really good substitute. And then, of course, when we get to the cream, that's a little bit of an issue. We're going to use cream in our soup here. For a vegetarian, you could use soy milk or rice milk, something like that, just to thin it out a little bit. But as far as that goes, we've got a great product here, and this is really moving along nicely. And boy, I tell you, I really wish you could smell this chai, because it is absolutely wonderful. You truly never do chai any other way. It's so doggone simple. But at this point, we're going to take a real quick break. When we come back, we're going to get this potato soup into the blender, and then I've got a great trail bar that you're really going to like. So please don't go away. Well, to our chai mix, we are going to add our tea bags. Now, we want to let it steep at this point for at least 5 minutes. But before we begin the steeping, we're going to add a little bit of honey. Now, interestingly enough, this recipe calls for about 6 tablespoons of honey. I found that to be a little bit much. I think it was a little bit sweet for me. Now, many of the recipes that you see call for sugar or brown sugar. I prefer to use honey. I really like honey for really a couple of reasons. Number one, you get flavor out of that. With sugar, you're simply getting sweetness. With honey, you're getting both sweetness and a little bit of added flavor. So to this, I've added maybe 3 tablespoons or something like that. And believe me, I counted that off. So I'm sure 3 tablespoons is pretty accurate. Not always, let me tell you. So I've got everything in there. We're going to let that steep for about 5 minutes. I'm actually going to shut it off at this point. And we'll move this off to the side. We're kind of moving some things around here. Again, that's simply going to steep. Now, it's a beautiful color. It's a beautiful aroma. What we'll add to that to really make it a nice chai latte kind of thing is a little bit of, in our case, we're going to use soy milk and a good vegetarian kind of thing. So we really got to like that. Now we're going to work on our potato leek soup a little more here. Now to this, I want to get all of these potatoes out of here. And we have gone, 10 minutes or so. Not a lot more than 10 minutes with these potatoes. And I want to get as many of them as I can into our Vitamixer. And boy, I really like this thing. I used to use an old bar blender for a lot of this stuff, and this has really been just wonderful going to this Vitamixer. It really works. The thing about this is pretty darn hot, so you've got to be very careful. What could happen if you have too much of any of your hot item in there? It could really shoot up and cause a bit of a problem with all of that steam. So again, you want to be very, very careful in doing this blending. Now I'll pull my Vitamixer just a little bit closer, and I'll show you a little bit of a secret that I like to use once we do that. Now we don't, of course, want to turn this on. We absolutely want to go on with our lid, and that kind of snaps. Now the Vitamixer here is pretty nice because it really is variable, so you can start out really slow, and I do that with a dial indicator here. So I'm going to turn it down, and what I'll do to keep and ensure that we're not letting a lot of that steam out and we're not getting burned with a lot of that steam, we want to leave that open, but I'll cover it up with a towel. And you can see that it's starting to work. I can go up a little bit with my speed. But once again, I want to be very, very careful about how I do that and not to go too far. And we'll come back off because I definitely want to get some more of those potatoes in there. And at this point, this really looks like a nice mashed potato kind of thing. But we're going to take care of that in pretty quick measure. Now at this point, we're just about done with our pan. We're going to finish up everything with the Vitamixer. Now, I will add just a little bit of heavy cream to this. Again, we've got to have a little bit of liquid in there to make things work. So I've gone in there with not a whole lot, maybe a third of a cup or so of that heavy cream. Once again, let that start to run. There you go. Now it starts to work. And once again, I want to take a quick look at it. I want to move things around just a little bit here. Yeah, this is working pretty well. We just need to give this a little bit of time to work. I'll be honest with you. I'm trying to be real cautious here because I don't want to take it too far. Now we've got it working. Great, that really looks good. Nice and velvety smooth. We've got a little bit of consistency there, but again, that's going to come right out of the thermos really well. What we're going to do is really serve this in a thermos or place this into a thermos for taking onto the trail. And I think a real big part of that, we want to be able to dump it right from the thermos into the thermos cup so we don't have to have a lot of spoons and things like that that we're carrying that really do get a real heavy in a real fast hurry. But again, I want to take a Yeah, I really like the way that looks. The nice thing about this Vitamixer, you can literally use it almost as a cooking utensil, in that if you left that in there long enough, it would literally heat up and heat the soup. You see those in some of the bigger stores when they're demonstrating these, they do that all the time. Now, we're going to get started on another great part of our product here, which are these trail bars. Well, I feel like I'm moving stuff around so you folks can see. But in this case, and this really, really works out well, we're going to take the nuts and all of the things that we use in this trail, mix some of the seeds, and we're going to start to heat them a little bit. We're going to take a dry pan, and always in this case I use a non-stick pan. I don't ever try and use a non-stick or a stainless steel pan, because it just helps in moving all of that stuff. So in this case, I've got some raw sesame seeds. And once I get my pan, I do want to have some heat there. I don't want to wait around and fool around. So once we get some heat, we're going to take it back just a little bit lower. But I've got some raw sesame seeds in there, and we're going to go into there real quickly and start to brown them. And this works incredibly well. If I were using also some other seeds, some raw sunflower seeds, I put them in at the same time. In this case, I purchased some roasted and salted. I like salted, or a little bit of salt into some of these sweet dishes that I make, and especially into these trail bars. We absolutely want a little bit of that salt in there, so I'm doing it just quite simply in the form of those roasted seeds that we're using. But these sesame seeds, you got to be really quick with them. They burn awfully fast, awfully fast. So once we get a little bit of color to them, and they're so small, I can see that color starting right away. The other thing that I can see with all of these seeds and nuts, really, some oil starts to come out of there, and that's what the heat is doing for you. It's roasting them, helping you build some flavor there. But in all of these seeds and nuts, there are some volatile oils that come out, and only come out with heat, and really it does open up some nice flavors. So we'll go into there. We've got some almonds. We've got some pecans. And while I've got all of those things into there, again, I want to slowly toast that. Add a little bit more heat. Now, I'll let you be the judge of how much heat you're going to use here. If you're fast, if you're quick, you're keeping your eyes on this, you can certainly use a little bit of a higher heat. It'll work a little faster for you, but be very, very careful. Don't walk away from it at this point, or again, you'll end up with something that's burnt and have a real bitter flavor. So be very, very careful. And at this point, we're going to add a little bit of coconut. And to me, there's nothing better than toasted coconut. And we're going to let that roll for just a few seconds. Now with all of these, as I said before, we're going to use some thermoses. The chai is going to go into a nice small little thermos. The potato soup is going to go into a nice little thermos that doesn't weigh a lot. Again, you can use those things. They have a serving utensil that's right with them, or a little cup, if you will, that's right with them that you can drink the soup out of. So we want to try and eliminate as much weight for you as we can. I know some of the folks that you'll see in the video that we met on the trail, they were talking that they don't eat like this on the trail, because certainly it does add some weight to you. But once we get these toasting, and again, this is reminding me a little bit of the chai because of simply the aroma that comes out of here. It really is wonderful. To this, at this point, I'm going to make myself a little well here and go into that with a little bit of butter. Now, I hope you can hear the sizzle of that butter there. You can see this pan is warm. It is doing what it's supposed to be doing, and doing some of that toasting there. So we want to let that go. I'll move that around just a little bit. Now we've added a little bit of butter. You can see this is fairly healthy to this point, but in a minute or two here, or in a second or two, I'm really going to make this not as healthy as it probably could be. But that's okay, because the flavor is just outstanding. Now the original recipe that I had here actually called for Rice Krispie treats, or Rice Krispies, and make kind of a Rice Krispie thing. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to go with something a little bit more healthy than that. So I'm adding to this a little bit of granola. And this is just really a purchased granola that I have. And we're going right into that. Again, we're going to continue that toasting process that we had going. It's not going to hurt to toast this granola a little bit. And we're going to go in with some dried fruit. To this I have dry cranberries, some golden raisins, and some dried cherries, just for a little bit of different flavor. And again, we want to get some heat going all through here. And then I'm going to make a little bit of well, and here comes what might be a little bit unhealthy. I'm going to use a marshmallow fluff. I'm going to turn this down before I start that. I'm going to go in and just start to melt that marshmallow fluff. I want to keep working that so it melts slowly and doesn't burn. That's the big thing. If you go too fast here, you're going to end up with a hard candy kind of thing. So you want to be a little bit more careful at getting this to melt a little more slowly. And that'll just take a second or two here. And don't give up on this. It does take a second or two to get this going and get this melting, but it certainly will do that. We've got our marshmallow melted. I've added the peanut butter to that. Again, it's a nice kind of thin little sauce that we have there. What we're going to do is start working our nuts and seeds and granola mixture into there. Now the nice part of this wonderful bar is it's a no-bake. It's typically what I refer to as a press kind of bar, because literally you press it right into the pan. And you want to make sure you get it well mixed at this point, because it sets up. We're going to put it in the refrigerator, and usually I put it in the refrigerator overnight, something like that, to get it all set up, and that has worked out really, really well. But again, it smells really incredible. We've got a nice aroma coming from there. It'll just take us a second or two to get this all together. And I'm being pretty judicious about this, simply because I want to make sure that I've got a good covering over all of the cereal mixture, if you will, just to make sure that sets up. So at this point, we're going to go into our pan, and this is a kind of a 8 by 10 pan, something like that. I'm going to go right in with all of the mixture. And then, as I had mentioned before, I'm going to just press this right down into the pan. And there are so many ways that you can do this. You can put the almonds in. I've used shaved almonds here. What you can do in some cases is take a little bit of that honey and go across the top of there, put the almonds on top so they stick, and it looks a little bit nicer. But at this point, we're just going to get everything pressed down into there real nicely and get it pretty even. This will go into the refrigerator overnight, and they cut up really, really well, cut up really easily. Typically what I'll use on these is simply a serrated knife, so you can't really beat it. Cut it right in the pan. If you can get it out of the pan without breaking anything, certainly you can do that, but it really does cut in the pan nice and easily. At this point, we're going to take another short little break. When we come back, we're going to have some things served up and ready for you to see, and we're also going to make and mix that chai, so please don't go away. Well, we're going to prep our chai. Now, I have strained it and put it into a nice refrigerator container. We're going to have ours just a little bit warm today. Now, if you have one of those fancy-dancy espresso machines, you can steam your milk. What we're going to do is the old-fashioned way and heat it a little bit on the stove. What I like to do is about a 3-to-1 mixture. Your Thai spice blend to, in this case, of course, a little bit of soy milk. Now, I will mention that you certainly can use whole milk or 2% milk, whatever, or dairy kind of milk. But in this case, we're going to let that go a little bit. We're going to put this on, and again, we're going to shake it. We want to be very careful. Again, that same steam thing could happen to you here. I'm going to mix it up just a little bit, and I'm going to go right into our glass. Well, that's a nice looking chai. You can also go with your own kind of blend there, 3-to-1, 2-to-1, 4-to-1. It depends on whether you like your chai spicy or not spicy or darker. But that looks pretty good. That's really how I like it. Now, if we're going to serve our cream of potato soup or cream of potato leek soup for a nice little lunch, we're going to decorate it just a little bit. This is fresh parsley that we have chopped a little bit earlier. We're going to go right on top of it. Looks really good. And again, just a little bit of decoration on there for a nice little lunch, and some bread with this would be just fantastic. But what we're going to do at this point is get ready to go onto the trail. Now, I've got my pack. We've got our chai into a nice thermos. We've got our cream of potato soup into a nice thermos. I'm going to pop a little bit of water in there, a bottle of water, and our wonderful trail bars, and we will be ready to go. This is a nice light thing. Again, not very heavy at all, as full as it is. We can put some towels in there, some paper towels, things like that to soften it up a little bit for the noise, but it's really a great hike, really a great day, especially for a nice cold day on the Appalachian Trail. So please don't go anywhere. We've got a lot to see from the Appalachian Trail. We will certainly be right back. Well, we stopped here at the 501 shelter for a quick hot lunch, and a hot lunch with soup I do need. It is cold out here, folks. It is always great to meet new friends here on the Appalachian Trail. And how about those trail bars, guys? Are they good?
Oh, yeah. Wonderful.
Outstanding. Wonderful. Good to have you guys here. Great to meet you. And for you folks, it has been great to have you here for our first show of adventure cooking. We hope to see you right back here next time we're on a great adventure.